Reason 1. The noise. You are sitting in a room full of people, and for the first time in your life, you feel completely alone. Nothing is wrong. That is what frightens you. The conversation is fine. Pleasant, even. Who said what? Who is dating whom? The show everyone is watching, the drama at work, the thing that happened to somebody's cousin. And you are nodding, and you are smiling. And somewhere underneath it, a quiet voice has started asking a dangerous question. Is this it? Is this what most talking actually is? You used to not notice. That is the part nobody warns you about. Intelligence does not arrive as a gift, wrapped and pleasant. It arrives as a kind of hearing. You start to hear the shape of conversations, the loops, the small talk that goes nowhere. The same 6 topics rotated forever, and once you can hear it, you cannot unhear it. The noise that everyone else swims in comfortably starts to feel, to you, like standing next to a running engine that never switches off. And you start to feel guilty about it, which is its own quiet weight. These are good people. They are kind. They mean well. They would help you move at midnight. There is nothing wrong with them, and that is what makes it so confusing. Because you are pulling away from people who did nothing to deserve it, for a reason you cannot even say out loud without sounding like you think you are better. You do not think you are better. You just feel, more and more, like you are speaking a language no one around you speaks back. So you get quiet. Not rude. Not cold. Just quiet. You speak less, because most of what you could say would not land, and half of what you want to say would kill the mood. And people notice the quiet, and they read it as distance, and they are not entirely wrong. This is the first reason intelligent people disappear. The first reason is that a sharp mind slowly loses its tolerance for shallow interaction. The way a trained ear loses its tolerance for a song that is out of tune. It is not arrogance. It is not thinking you are better. It is that the small talk that once felt like connection now feels like friction, like effort spent to arrive nowhere. And a mind that craves depth starts to physically tire in rooms that only offer the surface. But quietly stepping back from shallow rooms is only the beginning. Because the next reason is not about how you feel around people. It is about how people start to feel around you. And it is harder to hear. The verb of reason 1 is withdraw. You withdraw from the noise, not out of pride, but out of exhaustion. Withdrawing at this level means discovering that depth has a cost, that once you can hear how much of talking goes nowhere. The rooms that used to feel like company start to feel like static, and you begin, without quite deciding to leave them. Reason 2. The mirror. You said one honest thing at dinner. Just one. And you watched the temperature of the whole table drop. You did not insult anyone. You did not show off. Someone made a claim that was comfortable and wrong, and you gently offered the truth instead, the way you would want someone to do for you. And instead of curiosity, you got silence, a change of subject, a look that said, why did you have to make it weird? You went home replaying it, wondering what you did. You did nothing. That is the problem. Here is the uncomfortable thing about a sharp mind. It works like a mirror. When you think clearly and speak honestly, you accidentally show people a clearer picture of things, including a clearer picture of themselves, and most people did not ask to see it. Your honesty makes them feel their own vagueness. Your calm makes them feel their own drama. You are not trying to make anyone feel small. You are simply reflecting. And some people cannot stand their own reflection. So they start to pull away, and they never tell you why. The invitations get a little rarer. The texts get a little shorter. Nobody announces it. There is no argument, no falling out. Just a slow, quiet cooling, and you are left to guess at a reason no one will ever say to your face. And you do guess. You wonder if you are too much, too intense, too serious, too honest. You start editing yourself, softening, dimming, trying to be easier to be around. And it works a little, and it costs you something every time you do it. And notice the strange loneliness in that. You are shrinking yourself to keep people who only like the shrunken version, which means the closer they feel, the less they actually know you. You can be popular and completely unseen at the very same time. In fact, the more you dim yourself to fit in, the more surrounded and the more alone you become, both at once. And that contradiction is one of the quiet aches of a sharp mind in an ordinary room. This is the second reason intelligent people disappear. The second reason is that clarity is uncomfortable to be near, and people quietly distance themselves from anyone who makes them feel their own confusion. You become a mirror nobody asked for, and mirrors get turned to face the wall. It is rarely said out loud, which is what makes it so lonely. Because you are being pushed away for a reason no one has the courage to name. So some of your disappearance is a choice you make, and some of it is a choice other people make about you. But there is a third force pulling you out of everyone's life, and this one has nothing to do with other people at all. It is about what you are trying to build. The verb of reason 2 is unsettle. You unsettle people simply by being clear. Unsettling at this level means learning that a mind which sees plainly makes others feel seen too plainly, that your honesty can register as a threat you never intended, and that people will drift from you quietly rather than admit that the thing pushing them away was their own discomfort. Reason 3, the work. There is a thing you want to build. And somewhere along the way, you did the terrible math nobody wants to do. You realize that the thing you want to build and the calendar full of people cannot both exist. Watch what deep work actually costs. Not the myth of it, the reality. The real work, the kind that changes a life, does not happen in the cracks between social plans. It needs long, unbroken stretches of silence, hours where no one needs anything from you, days that belong entirely to the problem in front of you. And that kind of time has to come from somewhere. It comes from the nights out you stopped going to, the messages you left on read, the people who slowly stopped being in your life because you were, quietly, always busy with something you could not fully explain. And you feel guilty about it. That is important to say. You are not a cold person who does not care. You care a great deal, which is exactly why it hurts to keep choosing the work over the people, again and again, and watching them grow distant while you chase something they cannot see yet. But here is what a focused mind understands that a busy one does not. Everything meaningful is built with concentrated time, and concentrated time is the single most fragile resource you own. It shatters the moment it is interrupted. A life full of people is a life full of interruptions. And so, if you truly want to build something rare, you are forced into a trade almost no one talks about honestly. You trade breadth of people for depth of work, and the deeper you go, the fewer people can follow you in. This is the third reason intelligent people disappear. The third reason is that ambition and social life compete for the exact same resource, which is your time and your attention, and you cannot serve both fully. The people building the things that matter to them are almost always, at some point, absent from everyone else's life, not because they stopped loving anyone, but because they made a hard choice about where their few precious hours would go. But solitude for the sake of work is at least a choice you understand. The next reason is one you did not choose at all, and it is the loneliest of them. Because it is not that you stopped wanting people. It is that being understood got harder and harder, until it almost stopped happening. The verb of reason 3 is focus. You focus, and focus costs you people. Focusing at this level means accepting a brutal trade, that the unbroken time real work demands can only be paid for in the currency of your relationships, and that going deep on something rare will, for a season, pull you out of nearly everyone's daily life. Reason 4, the loneliness of being understood. You stopped sharing the thing you were most excited about. Do you remember when? You do. It was the day you watched someone's eyes go politely blank while you talked, and you decided, quietly, to keep the best of yourself to yourself from now on. This is the loneliness nobody prepares you for, and it is stranger than ordinary loneliness. It is not the loneliness of having no one around. It is the loneliness of being surrounded and still not being reached. You can be in a full room, loved, even, and feel utterly alone, because the things that light you up on the inside are things you have learned you cannot say without watching people drift or dim or change the subject. So you learn to translate. You take the rich, complicated thing you actually think, and you shrink it down into something small and digestible and safe, and you offer that instead. And people receive the small version and think they know you, and they do not, because you have been handing them a shadow of yourself for years. Every translation is a tiny act of hiding, and you do it so often it stops feeling like hiding and starts feeling like your personality. And a terrible, quiet calculation begins to run in the back of your mind. If being fully myself pushes people away, and being a smaller version keeps them close, then every relationship is asking me to disappear a little to belong. And once you see connection in those terms, something in you starts to withdraw, not from any one person, but from the whole exhausting project of being understood, because it has failed you too many times. This is the fourth reason intelligent people disappear. The fourth reason is that when you are rarely understood, you slowly stop trying to be. And a person who has stopped trying to be understood is already half gone. You do not leave in a dramatic way. You leave in 1,000 small silences, in all the things you decided not to say, until one day the real you is barely present in any room at all. And no one even noticed the moment you checked out. By now the circle around you has shrunk on its own. But the next reason is where you start shrinking it on purpose, with a coldness that will surprise you, because a sharp mind eventually turns its clarity on its own relationships and starts making cuts. The verb of reason 4 is tire. You tire of translating yourself into something smaller. Tiring at this level means reaching the quiet exhaustion of being surrounded but unreached, of hiding your real thoughts so often it becomes a habit, until you give up on being understood at all and, without announcing it, mostly disappear from inside your own conversations. Reason 5, the filter. One day you did something that would have horrified the younger, warmer version of you. You looked at a friendship of many years, felt how much it drained you, and let it end without a fight. You did not do it out of cruelty. You did it out of arithmetic. Somewhere along the way, you started to feel your time and your energy as the finite, precious things they actually are, and once you did, you could no longer ignore what certain people cost you. The friend who only ever takes. The relationship built on a version of you that died years ago. The people you kept around out of habit, or guilt, or history, who leave you a little emptier every time. You used to tolerate all of it. Now you cannot, and you will not. So you begin to filter, and the filter is ruthless. Not loud, not dramatic, no burned bridges or big speeches. Just a quiet, steady narrowing. As you stop investing in what drains you and pour everything into the tiny handful of people and things that actually feed you. Your circle gets smaller and smaller, and from the outside, it looks like you are disappearing. From the inside, it feels like you are finally breathing. And here's what people on the outside get wrong about this. They think the shrinking circle is loneliness. Often it is the opposite. A person who has cut their life down to a few real connections and a few real pursuits is not lonely. They are concentrated. They have simply refused to spend the one life they have on relationships that were only ever half alive. But it does not look that way from the outside. From the outside, it looks like the lights are going off, one by one. This is the fifth reason intelligent people disappear. The fifth reason is that a mind that understands the true value of its own time becomes ruthless about who gets to spend it. And that ruthlessness looks, to everyone, being filtered out, exactly like abandonment. You are not becoming heartless. You are becoming deliberate. But deliberate and distant can be impossible to tell apart from the outside. And so the people you release will almost always believe you simply left. Now, everything so far has had a kind of logic to it, a reason you could defend. But we have arrived at the turn in this story, the part most videos on this topic will never tell you. Because this same withdrawal, taken too far, stops being wisdom and becomes a trap. And the smartest people are the ones most likely to fall into it. The verb of reason 5 is cut. You cut what drains you, without apology. Cutting at this level means treating your time as the finite treasure it is, releasing the relationships that only ever emptied you, and accepting that. The deliberate narrowing of your life will look, to almost everyone outside it, exactly like you walking away. Reason 6, the trap. Here is the question you have been avoiding, so let me ask it for you. What if some of your disappearing is not wisdom at all? What if some of it is just fear, wearing a very intelligent disguise? Because this is the trap, and it is a beautiful one, custom built for clever people. Every reason we have covered is real, but every one of them can also be a lie you tell yourself. You can call it depth when it is really avoidance. You can call it focus when you are really just hiding from people who might reject you. You can call your shrinking circle discernment when it is actually the slow, comfortable surrender of a person who found it easier to be alone than to risk being hurt. And intelligence makes this trap far more dangerous, not less, because a smart mind is a genius at building reasons. Give a clever person a fear, and they will construct a cathedral of justification around it. So elegant and so convincing that they never once suspect the whole thing was built to protect a wound. You are not too deep for people. You are scared of them. But you would rather be the misunderstood genius than the frightened human. So you pick the flattering story, and you disappear behind it. Watch how this actually plays out over years. The isolation that started as a choice slowly stops being one. Your social muscles weaken from disuse. Reaching out starts to feel harder, then awkward, then almost impossible. And the loneliness you once chose as freedom curdles into a cage you no longer know how to leave. All of it still dressed in the noble language of the deep thinker who simply outgrew everyone. That is not enlightenment. That is atrophy with a good vocabulary. This is the sixth reason intelligent people disappear, and it is the one they least want to hear. The sixth reason is that withdrawal, past a certain point, stops being a sign of depth and becomes a sophisticated form of hiding. And the sharper your mind, the better you are at disguising your fear as wisdom. The tragedy is that the very intelligence that lets you see through everyone else's illusions is the same intelligence that builds the most convincing illusions of all and points them straight at you. But this story does not end in the cage. Because the wisest people, the truly intelligent ones, eventually see through even their own excuses. And what they do next is the whole point of this video. The verb of reason 6 is hide. You hide in the disguise your own mind built for you. Hiding at this level means the darkest turn, when solitude quietly stops being a choice and becomes an escape, when your gift for reasons wraps your fear in the flattering language of depth, and you vanish not because you are too wise for the world, but because you are quietly afraid of it. Reason 7, the return. You are alone in the life you built, and you finally ask yourself the only question that matters. Is this solitude serving me, or am I serving it? And this is where the intelligent person, the genuinely intelligent one, does the bravest thing they will ever do. They tell themselves the truth. They look honestly at their beautiful, defensible, well-reasoned isolation. And they admit which parts of it were wisdom and which parts were fear. That admission is the hardest thing a clever mind ever does, because it means dismantling the flattering story and choosing the humbler, truer one underneath. Here is what they understand on the other side of that honesty. Solitude was never meant to be a home. It was meant to be a workshop, a place you go to think, to build, to heal, to become someone worth returning with. And then you return, because a life spent entirely in the workshop is not a deep life. It is just a hidden one. The point of going into the cave was always to come back out with something. The disappearing was never supposed to be permanent. And this is the reframe that changes everything. Being alone is a skill, maybe the rarest one there is, and almost no one ever truly learns it, because they are too afraid of the silence to sit in it long enough. You learned it. That is real, and it is worth something. But there is a skill just past it that even fewer people ever reach, which is knowing how to leave the solitude on purpose, to walk back toward people as a choice, rather than being dragged back by loneliness or pinned away by fear. So they come back, not to the noise, not to the shallow rooms, not to the draining people, none of that. They come back on new terms, with a smaller, truer circle, with the depth they went away to build, ready now to offer it instead of hide it. They learn to be alone, which most people never do. And then they learn the harder thing, which is how to be alone and still choose, on purpose, to let a few people all the way in. This is the seventh reason, and it is the one that separates the wise from the merely clever. The seventh reason is that the healthiest, intelligent people disappear on purpose and return on purpose, using solitude as a tool instead of surrendering to it as a fate. They understand that the goal was never to escape people. It was to become someone who chooses their connections with intention rather than drifting through them by default, and that requires leaving for a while, but it absolutely requires coming back. The verb of reason 7 is return. You return, changed, on your own terms. Returning at this level means finally understanding that the disappearing was only ever meant to be a season. That solitude is a workshop and not a home, and that the whole point of learning to be alone was to earn the ability to choose, with open eyes, exactly who you let back in. The payoff. So let's pull this together. Reason 1, you withdraw from the noise, because shallow rooms started to exhaust you. Reason 2, you unsettle people simply by being clear, and they drift without ever telling you why. Reason 3, you focus, and the deep work you want costs you the people you love. Reason 4, you tire of being unreached, and stop trying to be understood at all. Reason 5, you cut what drains you, and your shrinking circle looks like abandonment. Reason 6, you hide, disguising fear as depth, until solitude quietly becomes a cage. Reason 7. You return, using the solitude as a tool and choosing your people on purpose. Here is the thing nobody on YouTube will tell you about why intelligent people disappear. Most of it is real, and some of it is a lie. And the whole trick of being intelligent is learning to tell the two apart in yourself. It is genuinely true that a sharp mind outgrows shallow rooms, that clarity makes people uncomfortable, that deep work demands solitude, that your time is precious and worth protecting. Those are not excuses. They are real reasons, and if any of them describe you, you are not broken and you are not cold. You are simply awake in a way that has a cost. But it is also true that the same intelligence which sees through everyone else can build a perfect prison for itself and call it freedom. And the danger is not that you disappear. Disappearing, for a season, can be the wisest thing you ever do. The danger is that you disappear and never come back and spend a brilliant life alone, defending a solitude that started as a choice and ended as a hiding place, too clever to ever admit you were simply afraid. So here's what to actually do with all of this. Give yourself permission to withdraw, fully and without guilt, when the withdrawal is real. Leave the shallow rooms. Protect your deep work. Cut the people who only ever drain you. That part is healthy, and you should stop apologizing for it. Solitude is one of the most powerful tools a mind can use, and you are allowed to use it. But then, every so often, ask yourself the one honest question this whole thing turns on. Am I alone because I am building something, or because I am hiding from something? And be brave enough to tell yourself the truth. Because a clever mind will lie to you in your own voice, and the only way out is a kind of honesty that intelligence alone will never give you. And if the answer is that you have been hiding, then do the bravest thing a smart person can do. Come back. Not to everyone, not to the noise, but to the few people worth being fully known by, on your own terms, with everything you learned in the quiet. Because the goal was never to disappear from everyone's life. The goal was to become someone worth reappearing in it. Somewhere right now, an intelligent person is sitting in a room full of people, feeling completely alone, and deciding, quietly, to start pulling away. And they are right to, a little. The rooms really are too shallow. The talk really does go nowhere. But they are standing at a fork they cannot see yet. One path leads to solitude as a workshop, a season of depth they return from stronger, with a truer circle and a clearer self. The other leads to solitude as a cage, a slow disappearance dressed in beautiful reasons, a brilliant life spent hiding and calling it wisdom. The same withdrawal begins both roads. Only one question decides which one you are on. Are you leaving to build or leaving to hide? There are 7 reasons intelligent people disappear. Withdraw, unsettle, focus, tire, cut, hide, return. And only the last one was ever the point. The disappearing was never the achievement. The achievement was learning to be alone, and then being wise enough and brave enough to choose your way back. If this video made you think about someone in your life or about yourself, hit subscribe. We have more videos like this on the channel, each one pulling apart a piece of how the mind and the world really work, underneath the story we are usually sold. See you in the next one.